Hey folks, last night was the first live show on season 2 of The X Factor with performances from the top 16. The theme, Made in America, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense. They never told us what that theme really meant, and there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the song choices, so I think they were just making up a fake theme just to say that there was a theme. They could have just left that out. It was the first night for the new hosts. Khloe Kardashian and AC Slater, I thought they seemed a little bit awkward. Mario Lopez was kinda over-rehearsed and seemed about as stiff as Khloe Kardashian's nipples. Khloe, on the other hand, seemed a little bit aggressive with the judges, to the point where she came across as rude. Now, maybe once they've had a chance to get more comfortable and settle into their new job, and maybe I'll end up loving them, but I will never think that Khloe Kardashian was a good idea. There is a huge segment of the population that will never tune into a talent show when the name alone of one of the hosts is universally associated with a lack of talent. Now, a lot of my friends have pointed out to me that Khloe Kardashian is the least annoying Kardashian, but I don't think that really matters. I mean, it's like putting 3 turds in front of me and asking me to decide which one smells the least like poop. She's a Kardashian! As for the judges, Simon and LA are exactly like they were last season, being a little harsh on each other's contestants while being inexplicably soft on their own. Demi Lovato is sporting a new hairstyle, hairstyle number 25 of the season so far, and we've just now gotten to the live shows. I think I like her better as a blonde. I thought she was a really good judge and that she was critical when she needed to be, even once with her own contestant, which is something we don't see enough of on this show. But as a mentor, I thought she was awful. I think she was too ambitious and that she's trying to change her contestants into pop stars overnight, when the change should be more gradual, because it was to the point where I didn't even recognize most of her acts. Britney Spears was exactly how I expected her to be. She looked kind of like somebody's Meemaw in that dress that she was wearing, and she seemed to repeat the same comment 16 times. I didn't expect she was going to be a great judge. They edited her in the auditions to make it seem like she was tougher than she actually is. She really isn't that tough. As a mentor, I thought she picked the wrong song choices and took her contestants in the wrong direction. Anyway, on to the contestants. First up was Paige Thomas. Demi wanted Paige to feel more adventurous, so she convinced her that it would be a cool idea to shave her head. What? I mean, I realized that she needed to change her look so that she wouldn't be compared to Rihanna, but now she looks like a boy. You don't shape the Rihanna comparisons by turning her into Chris Brown. I don't think the hair really matters anyway, since it appears that the strategy is to keep her head covered with wild and wacky headdresses. I'm not even sure why you would cut off all her hair and then keep her head covered up. Anyway, she took to the stage with a big metal porcupine on her head. I wasn't sure if I was watching X Factor or Hellraiser 10. Based on what she sounded like, though, I would have guessed the latter. She sang What Is Love. It was a terrible song choice. Nobody really cares about that song. And she really sounded terrible throughout the whole thing. They tried to put style over substance, and it ended up being more distracting than anything else. You have to have the right kind of attitude and confidence to get away with staging like that. It was like Paige tried to dress up as Lady Gaga for Halloween. The judges loved it for some reason. LA said it feels like stardom, but he didn't love the song choice. Britney thinks she's a true star. Simon said that she nailed it, and Demi was shaking because she was so excited. Next up was Arin Ray. Britney thinks that Arin is going to make the girls swoon. But we've seen the kind of guys that Britney's swooned over the years, and I don't think anybody really trusts her judgment in that department. This is Arin's second time on the live shows, and sadly for him, I think he stood out more as a member of Intensity last year than he did this time around in his own performance. He sang You Keep Me Hanging On, which is a pretty wacky song choice for him, but in this case, I don't think it really mattered since all I could hear was pshh, pshh. When your fog machine is louder than your singer, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to use it. Something else that didn't make a whole lot of sense was the scantily clad dancers. He's in the teens category, for God's sake, so the sexy dancers seemed a little bit inappropriate for him. LA thought he nailed it, but his vocals could have been a little better. Demi said she couldn't really hear his vocals because the girls were screaming so loud. If girls have started screaming like this, pshh, pshh, then she might be right. And Simon thought that there was too much going on around him. Next up was the first of the oldies, ancient 26-year-old David Correy. David took the opportunity to give a shout-out to his adoptive parents instead of going on and on about his birth mother, which was nice since they were the ones that actually raised him. He probably got chewed out when they saw the show and said, "What about us?" He sang Whitney Houston's My Love Is Your Love. Love that song, but but I'm not sure if it was the right song for David, since he's one of those big, over-dramatic singers, and this is one of the few Whitney Houston songs that don't require a big voice. Even bad singers can do an okay job with this song, but I think the song was too small for David, so he ended up kind of over-singing it. Still, it wasn't terrible, though. I kind of liked it. Britney felt him. Demi wasn't sure about the song choice. Simon thought it was manic and desperate, but that's how David always comes across, and LA said that it felt right. Next up is the first group, Sister C. Simon felt the need to tell us that they're really nice girls, but the only reason that we would think that they weren't is because he keeps talking about it over and over again. For their performance, they sang Hell on Heels again. I realized that we only saw a snippet of it when they sang it at their audition, but from that snippet you could pretty much deduce what the whole thing was going to sound like, so we already knew what to expect, and it didn't feel like anything new. They did a decent job with it, but Simon could have put more thought into this one. He spent so much time trying to convince people that they won't like them because of their personalities. I don't think that's the problem. I think a lot of people will not like them because they sound like the Chipmunks. Their accents are really exaggerated, and this song especially. A different song could have made a whole world of difference. They seemed a little bit awkward coming down the steps too. I think they were afraid that they were going to fall. You can't be hell on heels if you can't even walk down the steps in them. Did y'all notice the stagehands duck down and run across the stage in front of them? That was a little bit awkward. LA said it was good, but they are repeating themselves. Britney said she wasn't expecting that. Demi thought that they were really stiff, and Simon said it was fantastic. Next up was Jennel Garcia. Demi thought she needed to look more like a rock star, so she gave her a makeover. Jennel looked gorgeous. Gone is that curly hair that she can't keep her hands out of, replaced with a darker, shorter, straight cut. But best of all, no more of those short shorts that she used to wear all the time that made her look cheap. I thought she looked great. She sang Home Sweet Home, and she sounded pretty good too. She seemed to be a little bit nervous, so it probably wasn't as good as it could have been. But once she gets more comfortable with the new look and the big stage, I think she could quite possibly go all the way. I'm not sure if it was the perfect song choice for her, only because this was the boot song on American Idol a couple of years ago, so I always associate this song with somebody getting the axe. But she ain't going nowhere. LA said that it was a 10. Britney loved everything about it. Simon loved it, but he thinks Demi has tried to make Jennel a clone of herself. Well, their hair was similar, but that's about the only thing. Simon likes the curly hair better. Old Grandpa Cowell needs to get himself some glasses. Next up was Diamond White. I'm not sure if I was really crazy about Diamond's makeover. It was a little bit too 90s urban kid for my liking. I think Britney is trying to make over these kids to look like what kids looked like back when she was a kid. Come on, Britney Spears, this is 2012. With that said, though, the look was a whole lot better than the song choice. She sang Train's Hey Soul Sister. I hate that freaking song. And it really didn't make any sense to have Diamond singing that song. I mean, she did a fine job with it for what it was. I guess she did about the best she could do with that song. I thought the setup, though, was super corny with the cage and all that. It felt like something from last year's Intensity. Whenever adults try to put together a performance to make kids seem young and hip, it always seems to come across as silly. LA thought it started out a little bit mechanical, and it did. Demi wanted to see her have more fun, and Simon thought she came over as a relevant pop star. Next up, it's tattoo head Vino Alon. Going into last night, I thought Vino had a pretty strong shot, but after his performance, he'll be damn lucky to survive the cuts tonight. He sang Gotta Be by Nickelback. Terrible song choice. Vino is not a rock singer. He himself has even said that he's not a rock singer. But based on his look alone, that's what Reid is trying to turn him into, and it just ain't working. Everything about this performance was awful. I hated it, and for God's sake, Vino, don't ever take that hat off again. Britney was a little bored. Demi sees the passion behind his eyes, but she has a hard time seeing him as a pop star. Simon thought the song was wrong for him and turned him into a horrible cover singer. Simon even used some profanity that had to be censored. Next up, back to the groups with Lyric 145. Lyric, the queen, reminded us again that she's been to more funerals than weddings, but so have I. It doesn't mean anything. Coming into this week, I really liked this group, but I didn't like them last night. I'm not even sure what song it was they were performing. It sounded like just a bunch of noise to me. I hated it. There was just so much going on. A million dancers on the stage. Lyric, the queen, looked like she was wearing a trash bag for a jacket. A bunch of boom booms on the screen behind them. I didn't get it at all. I guess they did a good job for what it was. But in order to win, or to even come close to winning, they have to make people that don't like rap music like them. And the best way to do that is like they did with Party in the USA at the judges' homes, turn pop songs into hip-hop. LA said that it was like someone put them in the washer and dumped bleach on them. He asked Lyric if she really liked that song. She said, I made you like it. No, Lyric the Queen, he just told you that he didn't like it. Britney said she was genuinely entertained. Demi loved it. Simon thought it was sensational. I'm with LA Reid on this one. Next up is CeCe Frey. CeCe got a complete makeover. I guess the leopard spots are gone for good, which is a good thing because, as one of my friends so eloquently pointed out, they made her look like her face had been run over by a mountain bike. But leopard spots aside, I think the new look is horrendous. The change is just too much too quick. I was actually starting to like CeCe, but I didn't even recognize this girl. I don't know who this girl was that came out. I like the darker hair much better. The platinum hair just does not work for her. I think it actually could work if she had gone with a shorter cut like Gina Davis in A Long Kiss Goodnight. I think that would look excellent on her. But as it looks now, the style on her and the color just looks silly together. But the hair was the least of her problems. She sang Because of the Night by Patti Smith, and she sounded awful. She was so busy trying to run around and crawl around and put on an over-the-top performance that she forgot to sing the song. So I thought she looked like a mess, and she sounded just like a mess too. And it's sad because I think she had the potential to be transformed into a real pop star, but the transformation needed to be more gradual. LA said it was really strong, but it wasn't. Britney said that it was great even though her vocals were weak. Simon said the vocal doesn't matter to him. What? And Demi said she could do much better vocally. Next up is old country boy Tate Stevens. Poor thing is missing his family, but they don't want him to come home without the $5 million. He's saying, I thought I was tough, and it was a little refreshing to see somebody focus on singing rather than putting on a big over-the-top performance. But I gotta say I was a little bit bored with it. Mainly because it feels like Tate is given the same performance over and over and over again. I wonder if he can handle something with a little more energy. I don't know. He did a good job with it, but I just don't see how he makes it that far. Mainly because I don't think a lot of country music fans are going to sit through 2 hours of overproduced pop numbers every week just to root for this guy. Britney said that Tate wows her every time he sings. Demi was a little bored at the beginning, but he gave her chills before it was over. Simon didn't like the song, but he likes Tate. Next up was Beatrice Miller. Little Miss Grumpy wasn't happy with her song choice that Britney gave her. I thought the song was fine. I think it's the hair and the look that I hated. That crimped up mess was bigger than she was, and there was just too much going on with her outfit. It's like Britney took a little bit of everything out of the closet to dress her with. So instead of looking like a 13-year-old girl, she looked like a rummage pile, like trash heap on Fraggle Rock. Anyway, the song choice that she hated was I Won't Give Up, and I kind of liked it. I thought she was obviously nervous, so it wasn't perfect. But at some points I thought even the imperfections made it sound better and more emotional. Of course, there were some points that it made it sound awful, but overall I liked it. LA thinks that she is believable and lovable. Demi said that there was feeling behind her eyes. She was really impressed. Simon thought it was the right song choice. I thought so too. Britney said that she was amazing and twice called her the best. Does that mean that she's going to be safe tonight? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Next up, it's old Mr. Entertainment, Jason Brock. How did I know that Jason's first performance was going to feature a bunch of boy dancers? LA gave him J-Lo's Dance Again to sing. Terrible song choice for him. He did sing it better live than J-Lo probably would if she even sang live, but it's a pretty trite song that did nothing to showcase his big voice. And it was pretty strange to see somebody that doesn't dance singing a song about dancing, so I didn't get it at all. I think Jason is being turned into a caricature. I'm not even sure why it's so difficult for LA to combine style and substance. You can have a big flashy show and have a good song at the same time, but he didn't have it with this one. A lot of people are calling Jason a fat Adam Lambert, and I was never a huge Adam Lambert fan, but I think even his worst performance was more compelling than this one. Demi and Britney thought that it was a bad song choice. Simon thought it was utterly horrendous. Everything about it was wrong. Then when it was over, Jason asked Mario Lopez if he could pinch his butt. Mario wanted to keep it PG-13, but I think he was a little bit embarrassed. Next up, the group formerly known as LYLAS. Apparently that name was already being used by Bruno Mars' backup singers, so these girls had to change their name. And they changed it to 1432? I didn't even think it was possible to have a worse name than LYLAS, but obviously it is possible. Supposedly it means I love you too. Didn't make any sense to me. Stupid name. Worst name they could have possibly came up with. Anyway, onto the performance. Simon gave them Taylor Swift's We're Never Ever Getting Back Together, and they did a terrible job with it. I've said it before, there are just too many girls in this group. Their solo part sounded terrible. It was more like one of those corny group performances that they do on results night that nobody cares about instead of being an actual group. So this is probably what they'll be singing to each other when they're the first group on the chopping block tonight. LA hated everything from the name to the performance. Britney was pleasantly surprised for whatever reason. Demi thought there was only one person that shined, and Simon thinks they are fantastic. Khloe bullied Demi into saying which one that it was, but I still didn't know because all she did was point. When she pointed on the stage, it's got 7 or 8 people on it and says, you don't know who she's pointing at. Next up is Willie Jones. Lucky for him, his makeover wasn't as dramatic as the others in Demi's category. I suspect it's because she just doesn't really know what to do with a boy. He sang Here for the Party, which I thought was a good song choice in theory, but I didn't think he sounded very good. It seems like he was just randomly going from his natural voice to his deep voice, so I wasn't very crazy about it. I'm with LA. I thought it was adequate, but nothing special. Britney was definitely entertained. Simon thought it was silly, and Demi thinks that she knows what people are going to like since she's only 20 years old. Khloe tried to put Simon on the spot by asking him what song he would have chosen for Willie. Khloe, I know Simon doesn't put a whole lot of thought into song choices for his contestants, but he's probably going to have to think about it for a little bit longer than a split second. Next up is the last of the children, Carly Rose. I don't know if she dropped her last name or if Britney just didn't feel like saying it. She has enough names, though, that she can afford to lose one of them. Britney felt that it would be a good idea to put Carly in a schoolgirl uniform since that's how she jump-started her career. But here's the problem. The schoolgirl uniform was a prop and a gimmick for Britney to be sexy and provocative, but Carly's only 13. The last thing she needs is to be sexy and provocative. She ended up just looking silly and uncomfortable. She didn't even want to wear the schoolgirl outfit, but she said that she trusted Britney's advice. I think better she just didn't have the guts to say no. To make matters worse, Britney gave the girl with arguably the most potential on her team a song that did nothing for her. She sang Good Feeling, and it's like she had to dumb down her vocals just to fit the song. I hate it when adults try to put together a performance for kids that they think that kids will like, and then nobody ends up liking it because it feels contrived. It's the same thing that Simon did last season with Rachel Crow. It didn't work for her, and it's not going to work this season for Carly. LA said it didn't feel like she was having fun. Demi is worried that it's not her time right now. Simon didn't think she connected with the song, but he thinks it would be criminal if she left the competition. And the last of the night, the cocky boy band that doesn't want to be called a boy band, it's Emblem 3. Apparently these boys almost got thrown out of a hotel that they were staying in for having wild parties, but now they moved into a mansion, so I guess they can party as much as they want to. We really didn't see much douchebaggery from these guys last night. I'm guessing that Simon Cowell is going to go through great lengths now from here on out to make sure that they keep their cocky attitudes hidden. Anyway, they sang One Day, and to my surprise, I liked it. I'm not sure if it was as great as the judges were making it out to be, though, but it was good, and on a night of underwhelming performances, being just good is good enough to be a standout. Simon gave them a standing ovation. Too bad for the other groups that Simon is probably now going to neglect them so he can put all his focus on Emblem 3. And they'll probably get the best record deal out of all the acts this season, regardless of whether they win or not. LA said, we are witnessing America's next pop sensation. Britney thought they were amazing. Demi was swooning and flirting with them. So anyway, I thought the best of the night from each category was Jennel, David, Beatrice, and Emblem 3. The worst of the night from each category, Paige, Carly, Vino, and 8675309, or whatever the hell their name is. It's more like a prison. It's like a prison number than a group name, isn't it? Well, I didn't even remember what their name is. Just a bunch of random numbers. So anyway, and those are the four, by the way, that I think should go home: Paige, Carly, Vino, and that girl group. So anyway, leave me a comment and let me know what you thought about the show, who you think should go home tonight, and I'll see you folks next time.